So, I want to make this video and talk about the topic about the recent box office failures of the big budget movies in the summer box office in the domestic US market. So, I think the main problem right now in the Hollywood right now is that the studios, whether it's Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, whatever they're thinking is that if they spend more money, they're getting they will get big money in return. But obviously, in this summer, especially this summer, you can see the major flops, like big money losers, are taking place. I think there are some factors to take in consider when it comes to the box office failures. When it comes to the big budget movies. So, first of all, the movies that have failed big this year. I'm talking about globally and domestically in United States. So, first of all, the movie like Fast and Furious X, Fast X, I say, it costs around 300 millions to produce just in the production budget. In terms of marketing, they must have spent around like 100 million to market the movie. So considering the theater cuts and marketing, the spending, uh, the movie needs to make around like 7 or 800 million to break even, uh, get the money back to the studio that they spent, which is ridiculously high in this environment. And considering audience have been really picky this year, and considering the streaming growth of the streaming wars and the streaming platform offering different kinds of content, the audience simply cannot get themselves to the go to a theater to see a big movie. Another one, if you can see the example, the recently Indiana Jones Fire, which I love the movie personally, absolutely loved it. It was great. Having seen a big screen, had a lot of good time, but it's gonna lose at least 100 to 200 million dollars for the Disney because they spend around like 250 million just for the production of the movie, and not I'm not taking out, of course, about the marketing, which is a lot, and movie has not made a lot of money this year, this year so far. And also another one is the also talking about Disney. They lost around like I say around another 100 or 200 million. I say on Elemental, which is around like 250 260 million right now at the worldwide box office, which is seems good for a movie if you merely makes like 250 millions. But considering that movie is around $200 million to produce, but it costs way too much. And considering even if this money movie makes around 400 million, which is unlikely, it's gonna make around 300 $350 million, they're gonna still lose $100 million, hundreds of $1 million. So I think the main product when it comes to Pixar, I think because in the pandemic they're releasing many of the Pixar movies to straight to streaming on Disney Plus, and that diluted their brand and diluted their audience. So most of the people are just saying they will wait for Disney Plus, or they will wait for streaming. So that's a big problem that's happened with the Pixar brand has gone with. And another thing with the recent MCU offering, if you say Thor: Love and Thunder, even if some people like it, some people did not like it. It was a really mixed reception. Critically, it was like not great receptive. But considering it cost around like $300 million to make, even though the movie made around 750 million dollars, studio barely made break even on the movie. And I'm sure they only break even, but studio expect to see good results when they spend around 200 or $150 million. Another example, you can see The Flash. The Flash is one of the biggest box office failures in recent years in Warner Brothers history. Considering they spend like $250 million, 200 million just on production of this movie, and that movie is gonna lose around like $200 million for the studio. I think the main problem, considering going on in the Hollywood right now, they're spending way too much money on the production of a big budget movie. They'll think like we spend like 200 million or $250 million. They expect to get around $1 billion, but the environment after the pandemic, the audience is just not going to back to the theater. If you consider seeing the last year, they need a special movie, a event, some kind of event where the audience will love it and also the critically has to be a hit. If we talk about last year's Top Gun Maverick, in the pandemic, Spider-Man Far No Way Home. So that kind of eventful movies are only going back to the taking back the people to the theaters, and considering people are waiting for the streaming, wait big movies to come in on streaming. I don't think that's currently the great idea to spend around 200 $250 million on a big budget movie, considering the IPs of the movies, IPs and everything has to be on top, has to be critically acclaimed, has to be the audience response to stick further into the weekends coming, just not in the opening box office, but in upcoming weekends. The movie has to prove a leg. The movie recently came out, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was fantastic, loved it, and it crossed around a half a million, it's around crossed a $500 million, $500 million actually. Considering that movie cost around 100 millions according to reports to produce, that movie is gonna make money in the theatrical business, in theatrical market, and whatever comes from digital and everything after streaming is gonna be a profit for the studio. So that is one of the examples that if you spend cleverly and very responsibly, you will get your money back. But spending around 200 $250 million in current environment is does not seem so very good for the studios. And also TV shows, like what are they doing, I don't know, because Marvel putting like 200 $250 million into a TV series and not getting a return, because streaming is not really a money gaining platform right now. Every streamers are losing money, and they're spending more and getting less. And considering the current environment where audiences are less likely to go to theaters, so the spending has to stop for the big studios. And let's see what happens, because currently if you see this weekend the Mission Impossible movie coming out, part 1, they're directing part 1, which I'm going to see next. So that movie is really expensive to make because they're making it within 2 parts, but considering the good reviews and good critical and audience reviews, I say that movie is going to do well. So let's see what happens, because Hollywood is spending way too much money on the movies, and they should stop right now. And they should focus on making a good movie first, and spending less and getting more is the way to go. And let's see how they roll, because currently the environment is not great, and the people's perception of the Hollywood studio is not great right now, because WGA strike is going on right now. Now this weekend the actors strike, Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA has gone on strike. So considering the difficulties they are facing in a big market, so they should really consider what they're doing with their IP and their storytelling, and spending less on a project but getting a good result is really really key and really important right now. So let's see how the studios go from this year, if they took some lessons, and let's see what happens next. See you.